Paths to Contemplation by Yves Raguin, Jesuit. Part 1. Paths. Chapter 1. Starting out in search of God. If you want to start out in search of God by following the path of contemplation, don't think that you are reaching out for the unreachable. God is already waiting for you. This desire which you have to start searching for Him comes from Him. It is His call. He does not want you to know it yet, but believe me, this desire comes from Him. He has given you the longing to search for Him. He has, with His own hands, prepared food for your journey, and He has foreseen the stages of that journey. Whether He shows Himself or not is of little importance, for you will find that His attentive love has prepared everything for you, both food and shelter. Perhaps at one point or another you will recognize Him in the breaking of bread. Perhaps He will walk along part of the way with you. You are seeking to attain your God. You wish to know Him with all the strength of your soul and to love Him with all the strength of your heart. It was He whom the saints sought before you did, and whom they found. You wish to see your God, to hear Him, to love Him, not as hereto, by means of a faith which, even at its best, leaves man with his desires for God unfulfilled, but rather with a new knowledge which the patriarchs, prophets, and saints experienced. You want to be able to say, I have seen God. No one can see God in this world and live, yet only he who sees Him will live. That's a fact. Both of these statements are true. You cannot see God. Nevertheless, God makes Himself seen. Others before you have sought for Him and found Him. They did not find Him as a result of their own efforts, yet they would never have found Him without those efforts. This desire of yours to find God, which surges from the depths of your heart, which is your own desire and not your neighbour's, which finds its deepest source in you, is a desire which comes from God. This desire carries you toward Him, toward God, and God is waiting for the desire that inspires you to become yours to such a degree that it will truly be the desire of your whole being, and only then will He give Himself to you. It is not you who track Him down, who seize Him and force Him to give Himself to you. Oh no! God does not allow Himself to be seized in that way. It is He who makes His presence felt, who reveals Himself and gives Himself to you. In order to receive Him and grasp Him, you even need His strength, because yours will never be powerful enough. Perhaps you have already formed quite a clear image of your God. You have read the lives of the saints, especially the lives of the great mystics, and you have elaborated a mental picture of God. You believe that you have a good idea of how He looks, and you have made a mental portrait of Him for yourself. But do not become attached to all that, because you would then be like the two disciples on the road to Emmaus. They thought that Christ would have saved the world in some other way. Many people don't seek to see God, but try to put a countenance of their own making on him. God does not have a face, or rather, he has only one face, the one he took when he became incarnate. And even that face was an obstacle for most of those whom he met on earth. You are starting out in search of God. You do not know in what guise he will show himself to you. In all probability, he won't have a particular countenance. He won't have any name, and you won't be able to find any definition that you will be able to apply to him when you see him. You are setting out, full of great desire, but free of all these names, representations, definitions, and visions. God is God, and he is beyond everything that can be seen of him. We call him God, but in fact he does not have a name. When Moses asked him his name, he did not give it, but simply said, I am. Because he is, you are also. You exist from him and by him. It is in this bond of being that you will grasp him, beyond everything that can be conceived and said, in being, in the communication of his being that he gives to you. You are dreaming about receiving great spiritual lights, but perhaps you will have to walk in darkness and through the barren desert. You are dreaming about illumination, and perhaps you will find only black night, but in that night, God is. He is there for you. Even if everybody wanted to start out on the road towards God, in the hope of seeing him, hearing him, and touching that which they have already grasped through faith, the earth would still not be changed into one vast monastery. The universe would still be full of human activity. There would still be people who sought solitude, but the mass of humanity would be completely occupied with this earth and with mankind, which had both become transparently full of God's presence and action. Humanity would be both more active and more contemplative, and God would be pleased to come every evening after work to converse with men. The days would not be like those grey Sundays when the Mass seems dreary and the sermon is dull. Men would still fall and commit sin, but there would be great joy in the excitement of putting the Lord's creation to work, and the accomplishment would belong entirely both to God and to man. Undoubtedly, this is only a far-off dream for the whole of humanity, which is one more reason why those who feel a desire to see this dream come true should seek even more ardently to behold the face of God. Many souls seek God, but many more would seek him if they knew how to go about it. Many have sought him without finding him, and some have allowed themselves to be deceived by arid and arduous methods that promise them peace of soul and a very dubious illumination. Yet, is there any better teacher than Christ? His method is simple, requiring fewer exercises and more love.